Let's talk week 13 because there are some interesting games. There are a couple games I had to weave out my list, but I'm going from number 5 to number 1. This game at number 5 would have been a little bit higher for me if Arizona would have knocked off Seattle last week, but they did not. I have Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals taking on Sam Darnold and the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota's a weird team, too, where it's like, I don't know what we're going to get from the Brian Flores led defense every week. Justin Jefferson had one catch for 7 yards against the Bears. I expect him to go off in this game. Usually, when a team plays horrible like that, they bounce back the following week. Arizona's done well on the road this year. This is a sneaky good game, but again, that Arizona loss to Seattle really knocked the taste out of my mouth for this game a little bit. Number 4, we're going to Thanksgiving night. We talked about this earlier. Dolphins, Packers. This is the season for me for the Miami Dolphins to determine if they are a real AFC wildcard contender or not. Number 3, this is a real interesting game for both sides, in my opinion. It is one of the best rivalries in the NFL. Pittsburgh going to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. For the Steelers, we talked about their schedule here down the stretch. The Steelers could theoretically start the year 8-2 and finish 10-7 with the brutalness of that stretch. And for the Bengals, this is actually their last stand. They have one of the most talented offenses in the NFL. It's undisputed, undeniable. Can they stop anybody? If this defense cannot stop the Pittsburgh Steelers offense, and they're just a terrible defense, I think the Bengals need to prove they need to show up in a divisional game. They need to win this game to have any shot at that last wildcard spot, because it may come down to that game between them and Denver. I believe it's week 16 later in the season. Number 2, I have the Sunday night game for 2 reasons. Number 1, there's going to be a lot of snow on the ground reportedly. That could change from this time to kick off, but it sounds like it's going to be a blizzard in Buffalo. How is San Francisco going to handle those conditions? Is Brock Purdy going to play? And are the Niners, who were such the Avengers going into this season, is this their final stand? Because I think if they lose to Buffalo, their season's over. Can Buffalo even put a whipping on San Francisco, put them into the ground, and send the Niners, in my opinion, backpacking and going to the bar in January? And I think number 1, without a doubt, is the number 1 game on probably everybody's wish list this week. 425, CBS, Jim Nantz, Tony Romo. In my opinion, the 2 MVP finalists we talked about earlier in the show, Saquon Barkley and the Philadelphia Eagles, Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, that offensive and that defensive line going into Baltimore, a place where the Eagles have never won in their history. Lamar Jackson has one loss in his career in the NFC, and it was in 2020 to Daniel Bleeping Jones. Can the Ravens, who got a big win against the Chargers, short week at home, can they beat one of the best teams in the NFC and even the NFL, the Philadelphia Eagles?
Okay. I like your list. I don't disagree too much. For me, at number 5, I've got the LA Chargers going down south to take on the Atlanta Falcons. How do the Chargers respond after a tough loss at home on Monday Night Football against the Baltimore Ravens? The Falcons are leading the division in the NFC South, but I wouldn't say they're like a legit contender, really. But there's just something about that matchup that I find very intriguing. Um, it could be a shootout, but it could also be like a 20-17 type game. I don't know, and that kind of adds to the intrigue of it. At number 4, I agree with you about Cardinals Vikings. I think this game's a little more important for Arizona than it is for Minnesota because they lost to Seattle last week and they have to play Seattle again in a couple weeks. So are they kind of overlooking the Vikings and looking ahead to that rematch with Seattle? That's that's my big question with the Arizona Cardinals. Um, at number three, that's where I have 49ers Bills. It's the like you said, I think it's San Francisco's last stand, and I can't wait to watch this game, especially if it is wintry conditions. It's just gonna be fun. Um, by the way, I love that even though the Bills are building a new stadium, they're not putting a stinking roof on it. um, they're never gonna host a Super Bowl, and they just don't care. So I like that. And then I agree with you at number one. That's easy. Eagles Ravens. But at number two, I'm actually gonna go to the first game on Thanksgiving. Bears Lions.
Interesting. I like your pick.
Um, because the Bears have gotta be, if the Dolphins are the most frustrating team in the AFC, the Bears are the most frustrating team in the
Gosh, don't
NFC.
get me started on another rant again, because I will go on another Matt Eberflus rant here. Colin Cowherd on FS1 said it on Monday, and he's right. I can't keep my eyes off the Bears. You gotta watch them. You gotta see how this team is gonna find a way to
To,
lose football games.
yes. And then on the other side, the, I think the Lions just forgot how to lose. So it's like you got one side that finds ways to lose games, and you got a team on the other side that's just, yep, we're 10-1. You, we're steamrolling our way through the season. It almost feels like Detroit is playing like they should have been in the Super Bowl last year. It feels like they're playing with a chip on their shoulder this season because
Dare
they,
I say, finish their story?
oh my lord, um because they know they let that game get away last year in San Francisco. I fe- it feels like to me Detroit thinks they lost that game rather than San Francisco won that game.
Oh, they definitely watched that game. I agree with that sentiment 100%. The only reason why I almost had that game on my list, the reason why I feel like there is a scenario where Chicago gets blown out, because I think Detroit remembers what happened last year on Thanksgiving. Remember, they were 7.5 point favorites. Green Bay was like 3-6 at that point, really struggling. I think it was week 12, so maybe they were 4-7, somewhere along those lines, and they had already beaten Green Bay in Lambeau bad on a Thursday night, and Jordan Love came in there, and that was the day the Green Bay Packers began their hot streak. They humiliated the Lions in Detroit. I think Detroit, knowing they have Green Bay next Thursday night in the Motor City, they will not overlook the Bears in this game. And if the Bears cannot figure out a way to stop the Sonic and Knuckles tandem of Jameer Gibbs and David Montgomery, it may be a long day for Matt Eberflus. And I'll say one more thing, Josh. I consider Thanksgiving, even though it's an afternoon game, to be a nationally televised game. There's going to be 30, 40 something million viewers watching this game. If the Bears get humiliated, and I mean spanked, please, for the love of God, fire Matt Eberflus on Black Friday. Make it a Black Friday for the Bears head coach.
I could see that. Um, by the way, I do understand why you put Steelers Bengals on your list because Cincinnati was almost able to come back and beat the Chargers, but it feels like the Bengals are already done. So, so
I
I
I put it on my list more because of the history of the rivalry of those two franchises. I think it's going to be an incredible down to the finish game. I think it has more blowout potential in the Chicago Detroit game than that game.
which I do understand your reasoning, but because of the intrigue of Is Chicago going to find a way to lose, or is Detroit going to blow them out? That's why I put it on my list. Kind
Yeah,
of like the Chargers Falcons game. I'm not entirely sure. Like,
like that game, the Charger Falcons and Arizona Minnesota sort of feels like you could put both those games in the same spot. Like to
in
me,
what regard?
like okay, so for Cardinals Vikings, for that situation for Minnesota, it's like to me the game matters for them because they're still fighting for maybe even the one seed and the division, but they don't have as much urgency as Arizona, who is just battling for a potential NFC West spot. Where the Chargers Falcons, to me, I know Tampa has gotten healthy. I know they're getting better. I think Atlanta's going to probably win that NFC South. For the Chargers, it's like, do you really want to lose two in a row coming off a short week? But you don't really need the game because you can still get in if you lose. So it's one of those where it's like these are four teams, two matchups, where it's like both of them to me, their season's not over, but it would take a hit if they lose.
So let me ask you this. Did you even consider Browns Broncos the
I
Monday night?
did. I
Okay.
did. That was probably like 7 or 8 on my list. And the only reason why I didn't put it on there is because the Browns have no chance of the playoffs.
I would agree with you. I mean, if they win this game, it would be their fourth win on this.
They'd have to win out. They'd
Yeah,
have to win out.
right. And I don't see that happening because you have Pittsburgh next week in Pittsburgh, Kansas City, Cincinnati, which that game got flexed out of Thursday Night Football. Congratulations to the Browns and Bengals for being the first ever game to be flexed out of Thursday Night Football. That game will now be played at 1 p.m. on Fox. Chargers Broncos got flexed into Thursday Night Football. And then they have to go to Baltimore in week 18. Or
Yeah.
no, I forgot. They have to play the Dolphins
For the
here.
Dolphins, week 17, then Baltimore, week 18. Yeah, I'm sorry, Browns fans. It's not happening.
No. But think about this just on that note. Jameis Winston joins Baker Mayfield as the only Browns quarterbacks to beat both the Steelers and the Ravens in the same season.
That's funny.
I think. I could be wrong about that, but I think I saw that statistic.
That's incredible because there's like Jameis. Well, wait, no, Jameis didn't start against Baltimore, so
No, he did. He did.
wasn't that DTR?
No.
What? Wait, they lost to Baltimore.
No, they
Wait,
didn't.
no, wait,
Yeah, it's right
what?
here. Jameis Winston has defeated the Ravens and Steelers since becoming the Browns starter. He and Baker Mayfield are the
Oh,
only
you're
Browns.
right. DTR came in for Watson against Cincinnati. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I knew it at some point. That's my bad. That's totally on me. Josh is right.
yeah.
That's
It,
incredible.
it's right here. Jameis Winston and Baker Mayfield back in 2019 are the only Browns quarterbacks to defeat Baltimore and Pittsburgh in a single season. I don't know if I should be excited about that or just be like, really? I don't know.